Peter from Europac.com. I want to get into the economy with you. I want to get into your statements on Alexandria Cortez and the pie in the sky. She's selling it just about the general nature of things. Look, I'm not paid by Trump to say positive things about him. I like a lot of what he does. I hate a lot of what he does. He's not fighting censorship. He's doing a lot of things I don't like, doing a lot of things I do like. But regardless, you've been predicting that if things keep going down this line, we could have Trump lose and then get a bunch of socialists in, but then that'll get a patriot in 4 years later. But I see America, and you're right a lot of the time, in major polls everywhere, kind of rejecting Cortez because she got so confident where we're going to ban cows and their farts, and we're going to ban airplanes, and if you don't want to work, you don't have to work. And then her claiming she didn't do it. I'm not saying she's on meth, but she looks like a meth addict to me. She looks like she has meth mouth. So does that professor she had on defending her on Tucker Carlson last Friday. I mean, are you changing your calculus now? Because it seems like you were right a few weeks ago, but they're going so far it could backfire.
Yeah, as crazy as they are, it's ultimately not going to be about the climate change deniers, but the economy deniers. Look at the data out today. The biggest drop in retail sales in 1 month, this was December, since 2009. We were in the Great Recession the last time retail sales fell as much as they just plunged. Look at the numbers we got out yesterday on delinquencies in auto loans. It is an all-time record high. People who are 90 days or more behind in their car payments. I just read today that restaurant sales are falling now for 4 out of the last 5 months at the fastest pace in more than 25 years. That means restaurant sales now are weaker than they were in the 01 recession or the 08 recession. Now, of course, it'd be much better off. We'd all be better off if Cortez was still waiting tables instead of working in Congress. But these crazy policies that she's advocating, look, the public might just turn to them in 2020 if we are in a bad recession and it's all blamed on the tax cuts, on Trump, on deregulation. And the only solution left for people to grasp for is socialism. And of course, it's never worked. It's failed every time it's been tried, but that doesn't stop people from trying it again.
Let me ask you this then, and I saw those numbers, and I agree that it's a bubble economy, and what are we supposed to do? But there's also the numbers. People say that they are fiscally the most positive about their investments and the future and the economy. And so if you're going to be in a fiat system, it's good to have confidence because that's all you do have. And I know you're invested heavily in Europe and China, but I mean, at the same time, they're having some major financial problems as well.
Not if the optimism is unfounded, and people are going to turn around very quickly when they wake up to reality. With the national debt just yesterday exceeded $22 trillion for the first time. We're going to break $23 trillion this year too. And we're continuing to go deeper and deeper into debt.
Sure, but you're a smart guy, and I'm as Mr. Fiscal Conservative with you and gold, silver, all that. We've kind of like passed the point of no return now where, okay, adrenaline's keeping the body alive. Okay, let's keep it alive. I mean, we've kind of, I don't think there's any putting Humpty Dumpty back together again. So I think it's like, where does the inflation go? Does it build some infrastructure? Does it build some factories? Does it give some confidence? I mean, I think we're so screwed now. The crash landing is just an inflation war.
Yeah. Right. Well, inflation doesn't build anything. It destroys. All it does is destroy the value of money.
It does in later stages if dictators run off and buy 100 Ferraris. But if you build infrastructure and attack bombers and cruise missiles, it does.
No, it doesn't build. All that does is divert resources away from where they otherwise would have been deployed. You cannot make a country rich by printing money. Unfortunately, that's how Cortez ultimately is going to try to finance any type of Green New Deal that we get.
No, you're right. She said, forget deficits, we'll print out of it like Venezuela. You're right. I'm just saying we're already on that course. Let me ask Peter Schiff this way. You're a smart economist, a self-made guy. A lot of predictions come true, like 9%. If we're going down the path anyways, is there any way to tailor the inflationary hellhole where it's better for the public? Like, if we're going to be executed, a little bit like a cocktail before we get killed? Or
Well, look, I do believe it's better to have a self-inflicted, implosion than one that is brought about externally in a worse crisis. We should bite the bullet and level with the American public about what needs to be done to solve the problems that were created by big government and the Federal Reserve. But, nobody wants to do that. Everybody wants to pretend it's great and keep kicking the can down the road. I just don't think Trump's going to be able to kick it down the road beyond the 2020 election. I think if you look at everything that's going on now, it's coming to a head, and I don't think he's going to get out of Dodge, the way Barack Obama did. But, the craziest thing about, Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal and what she's saying, and of course, everything about it is crazy. but is the belief that this is actually going to be good for the economy. I mean, if we actually had to do this, if we really face this threat, this is going to be mutual shared sacrifice. Everybody is going to suffer to implement this, particularly the poor and the middle class. They're going to feel the burden the heaviest. But she is trying to, wrap this thing up as if everybody is going to benefit from a huge reduction in our standard of living, which would be required. And of course, when Cortez is always asked, Cortez, how are you going to pay for this? Her answer is always, how do you pay for anything? How do we pay for World War II?
Yeah, she's like a 5-year-old. So let me ask you this. Because we doubled our population and we won the war, you dumb idiot. That's a totally different ballgame right now. She just doesn't get it.
No, but the point she doesn't get, Alex, is that the way we paid for those things is through massive tax increases on the middle class and the working poor. I mean, she doesn't know her history, but in 1929, just before the Great Depression, the lowest tax bracket for income earners was 1.5%, and the highest bracket was 25%. Now, even though we increased the top bracket from 25% to 92, and then it went down to 91 in 1946 after we won the war, we increased the lowest bracket from 1.5% to 24%, and we only lowered it to 20% in 1946 after we won the war.
And let's be clear, the rich people all had it write-offs written into it.
Well, of course, no, they didn't really pay that top bracket, but the point is that the middle class got hit with massive tax hikes, much bigger than the tax hikes on the rich. And so that's how we paid for the New Deal and World War II. And so if AOC wants to pay for the Green New Deal the same way, then it has to be through huge tax increases on her constituents.
Well, let's talk about what her Green Deal, from your research, would do. Some are saying total collapse of civilization. It killed Spain. They tried half of this. It killed them. They were a booming economy until 10 years ago. Peter Schiff's our guest. I'm Alex Jones. Europac.com is his website. I'm at newswars.com. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, Peter Schiff's a smart cookie at Europac.com. I'm going to get his take on where he sees Trump's going and the economy and so much. I see where Trump was. It's easy to sit back as an economist and a smart guy and say bite the bullet. And I might have done that if I was the president, but he thought he would wow the country over with some prosperity because all that had been given to the bankers for a while and not the people. But I agree with Schiff. This whole course is a collision course with disaster. And, but you talk up America and you say you love the country versus Cuomo saying America was never great. It'll never be that great. You can't help but love the guy. But, okay, Pelosi wanted zero. He got $1.3 billion. He could have declared the emergency and built the whole wall. He's going along with DACA. Now, in fairness, he said he'd go along with partial DACA. But then he's trying to get us out of Afghanistan and Syria. That's beautiful. So, I love Trump. I've been destroyed for it. I've been attacked. I've been demonized. We're going to go back to leadership in a moment. It's just that it is a quandary. And Peter Schiff's right. The economy is having some problems. And when people figure out that it's not all roses, they're going to turn on him like milk out of its expiration date. And the answer, then they've got it all primed, is men and women fighting with each other, racial divide, class envy, God, and then all the rich billionaires, like he was saying before the break, like that 90% tax you always hear about. They had family trust, they had deals, they had offshore. It's like, oh, Trump's a criminal. His dad gave all his wealth away when the kids were babies. That's what anybody does. It's how you get out of the taxes. So why are all these rich kids trust fund kids? Because that's how the government don't get the money. They don't pay the taxes. Bill Gates, I should pay higher taxes. The guy pays basically zero. He has a tax-free foundation. Peter Schiff, you heard all my questions babbling, Europac.com. Nobody needs to have you introduced to him. You were getting into where you see the economy going, what's going to happen, Trump, all of it.
Yeah, well, Alex, if Trump really wanted to make America great again, the only way to do that is to make government small again. But the problem is, he hasn't been building a wall, but Trump's been building up government. He's made government bigger. He's been building bigger national debt, bigger deficits. So building up debt and building up government is not the secret to making America great. We need to be tearing this stuff down. But Trump has blown that opportunity. He had 2 years with a Republican Congress to try to make a difference and to shrink the size of government, to tackle the problems with entitlements, yet he did none of that. All he did was offer a tax cut paid for with bigger deficits.
Well, he did blow the trifecta. He did blow the trifecta.
Yeah, and so now the stuff's going to blow up, and America, as I said, is going to turn to another false promise of socialism, of this, utopia that awaits us if we simply turn over everything to the government, that the government's going to manage the economy and they're going to take over the distribution of wealth and resources and production, and everybody's going to prosper. We're going to have all this great prosperity.
That's Venezuela. How the hell
Yes, exactly.
do we have half the millennials saying they want communism?
Because they were educated or indoctrinated in American schools. The average school teacher is a socialist. They don't know what they're talking about. I mean, we borrow and spend, so much money, trillions of dollars, to basically brainwash our kids. We've got student debt now, $1.6 trillion. What do we have to show for that? A bunch of socialists, a bunch of people who are waiting to vote for the same type of economic system that has destroyed Venezuela. People are starving. People are dying, literally, in the streets.
Committing suicide. So what do you predict next? Because Cortez's, I saw on our website that day, it was up for 12 hours, 13 hours. Then she says, I never did that. She said, if you can't work or don't want to work. I mean,
look, democracy is a very dangerous form of government. I've been saying that for a long time, and this is the proof. When you elect people like this shows you how dangerous democracy is and how smart our founders were who wrote the Constitution. They tried to protect us from this.
Explain that, people. A republic is actually the cure to democracy.
Yes, we have a Republican government. Read the Constitution. It guarantees to every state in the Union a Republican form of government. There is no mention of the word democracy in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights, in the Declaration of Independence. America was not founded to be democracy. We were founded as a republic to protect Americans from the tyranny of democracy, because democracy, like socialism, has failed every time it's been tried because the people vote in socialism. And when you talk about democratic socialism, that's what it is. It's socialism where the people vote for it. And just because the people vote for something bad...
just because they vote to play Russian roulette, it's not even Russian roulette, you're guaranteed to fail. How fast does the average socialist state fail? Like 15 years?
I don't know what the exact number is, but the only ones that even can look like they've succeeded is where they have a strong economy to destroy. So if socialists come to power, when you have prosperity that was created by capitalism, it takes longer to squander the wealth. But if socialism
exactly,
comes in,
big fat rich Europe or the U.S. or Canada can go 30, 40 years, but when it crashes, it's even worse.
Yeah, and so the problem is, though, we're going to embark on socialism in America when we're already broke. That's the problem, because we've already had a lot of socialism mixed in with capitalism. We've had this mixed economy, and capitalism gets the blame for the problems created by socialism, but we're deeply in debt. We have a completely screwed up economy. It completely depends on our ability to export dollars and import everything else, but people are not going to want the world's reserve currency to be a currency issued by a socialist country. When we start going down the Green New Deal and running massive deficits to try to create this, liberal utopia, the dollar is going to collapse. I mean, we're not going to be able to buy anything. So we're going to be having the same type of inflation that they're experiencing down there.
Then I asked the question earlier, and then I forgot during the break. What does Mike Adams did a big video on this, and a bunch of experts looked at it. If we did her deal, if they tried to tear down all the buildings that aren't whatever and got rid of the airplanes, I mean, you listen to this, it's like just cuckoo level. And like Trump said, only we do it, no one else does. What is the thinking there?
How are we going to do it? Where are we going to get the resources? Where are we going to get the manpower? I mean, everybody's going to have to work 24 hours a day.
But she said nobody has to work.
The kids are going to have to drop out of school. Everyone's
stay there. Tell us what's going to happen when we come back. Europac.com, billions under management globally. Been pretty accurate with his crystal ball. I've been asking the questions here, and I want to just ask that last one to give you the floor the last 7-8 minutes here. Thank you for joining us. But how do you see this unfolding if Alexandria Cortez, AOC, got her way? Because, they're going to force this vote in the House to prove how crazy it is, but some say it might pass. I mean, this is pretty much mainline. The Democratic Party is becoming, this is its mainline, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to go to a vote in the House. I don't think Nancy Pelosi is dumb enough to force Democrats to vote on this nonsense and take a side.
But the Senate's calling for that.
Yeah, well, because that makes sense, because the Senate is going to put a lot of Democrats in a very bad position. I mean, all the Republicans are going to vote against it proudly. But you have these Democrats that are afraid to go against it. I mean, look, when Ocasio-Cortez had her press conference announcing this nonsense, she was surrounded by older white men, right? I mean, all these white guys. Why were they there? Because they're trying to shore up their support from the minorities, the base of the left wing, the people that support Cortez in this nonsense. So they're lining up behind her because they're afraid.
No, you're right. The Democrats are 100% racial now. It's all based on race.
And so these guys, they're afraid to not support this. But a lot of these guys could be in districts where there's some people who are kind of in the center, some people who are independents. And, so they're going to lose in the general election, absent the complete collapse of the economy, which I think might happen, if they support this. So they're damned if they do and they're damned if they don't. They kill themselves in the primaries if they don't support it, but then they could blow the general if they do. So I think it's smart politically for the Republicans to bring this nonsense to a vote, but I don't even know what they're voting for. There isn't any real policy implications here. It's just these grandiose statements.
Well, but it shows the cancer. It's the grandioseness.
Yeah, and even if you think about what they're saying, we're going to rebuild every structure in the United States in the next decade. Every structure. Think about how many structures exist in this country.
It took 200 years to build those damn things.
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to rebuild them in 10 years. What, is every single person in America going to work construction? I mean,
and by the way, if we had to do it to defeat space aliens, we could. The left puts all these regulations on where it's impossible to build.
Oh, well, first of all, with all the environmental permits we would need, it'll take 10 years just to get the permits to redo all these buildings, let alone actually do it. I mean,
and then people are going to sue, and then she's wearing $5,000 outfits and $2,000 shoes.
And then we have to make them all ADA compliant. If we're going to rebuild them all, now they all have to be, accessible to people in wheelchairs, to people who are blind. I mean, this is all a bunch of nonsense. The only person who could propose something like this is a waitress, right? A bartender, somebody who actually knows nothing. That's what we've done.
Yeah, it'd be like her saying, I'm a waitress. I'm opening a bar with free drinks and food every night. You'd go bankrupt in 1 week.
Well, that's what happened with Panella Bread. They finally closed their last restaurant today, where it was like, pay what you want. If you want to pay, pay. If not, don't pay. Of course, nobody paid, and so they ran out of money, and now they're shutting down their business.
Jeez, who comes up with these plans?
Look, I would love to open up something like a green cafe, just as a test case, where I said, hey, here's a green cafe, and we're going to pay people enough money so that even our dishwashers, and our busboys can support a family. We're going to give them vacations and pensions and great health care, and we're not going to use any electricity that isn't generated by solar or wind. And, but we're going to have to charge like $75 for a hamburger in order to make it all possible. I wonder how many liberals would come to my cafe and buy my expensive food to make all this fantasy a reality, because they never want to put their money where their mouths are when it comes to this stuff.
So they are the party of Fantasyland. So let me ask you this. You've got the CEO, Howard Schultz of the coffee company, Starbucks, and he's running around saying, oh, the Democrats are too extreme, but I think he's actually posing as conservative to siphon votes from Trump. What do you think?
Well, he'd have to run as an independent, and if he does run it as an independent, he may help Trump. I don't know. That might be something, just like Ross Perot helped out Bill Clinton. He might actually help out Trump.
Sure, but I'm asking you, what do you think, you're a smart guy, is behind Schultz? What do you think he's doing?
Oh, I have no idea, whether he's just trying to get some publicity or if he really thinks he's going to run for president. If he's going to run, I don't know why he doesn't just run in the Democratic Party as a centrist Democrat.
Exactly. He could win there as a centrist Democrat.
Well, if all the socialists split up the crazy vote, right, then he might be able to get enough of the, slightly less crazy vote in order to get the nomination. And, if he took the Democratic nomination, he would beat Trump. I think for sure he would beat him, especially since I think we're going to be in a recession. But I think the only chance Trump has of winning in a recession is if the Democrats are so far into Crazyville that enough people in some of these swing states, just don't want to go that way. If there's still enough.
Well, yeah. What do you make of this Muslim member of Congress that literally sounds like David Duke crossed with Adolf Hitler?
Look, this is all part of this cultural political correctness. As long as you're some type of minority, as long as you fit into this victim class, you can say or do whatever you want with impunity. and everything goes. But if you're not, then, there's zero tolerance for you. And it's not really about, substance anymore. It's all about the form. And that is the trap that we've fallen into. Unfortunately, there is no substance whatsoever to socialism. It's all a bunch of rhetoric. It appeals to people's envy. It appeals to their greed. It appeals to the lowest common denominator of, hey, let's steal money from other people so that we can have it. And somehow the other people who earn the money, they're not paying their fair share. They got their wealth by stealing it, and we just need to, redistribute it back to people who are more deserving. And a lot of people have fallen for that. And ultimately, the people who suffer the most are the middle class, who get wiped out, and the poor who become impoverished even more.
Well, that's it. And they're too stupid to remember what happened a year ago. And that's the paradox is you have ultra-rich, most of them are globalist leftists. They're all for socialism because they don't pay the tax. They're offshore. They get corporate contracts, government contracts. And so you got the dumb, unwashed masses. You got the elites that are totally soulless. And then they're just screwing over the golden goose here.
There are a lot of very rich Democrats, and they're probably going to get in trouble here because they're about to get eaten by their own people. Because you got all these big billionaires. I mean, there's some of the wealthiest people have been major contributors to the Democratic Party.
Exactly, and now they've manifested a bunch of piranha-like, pro-Venezuela, pro-Somali folks that if you want to live in a mud hut and be sold into sex slavery, this is who you want to run things. Peter Schiff, thank you. Europac.com. We'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Sure.